Shake
Hi,
it off.
everybody.
Oh,
Welcome to another episode of Murder in Retrograde. Today, we are going to be covering a lot of different things, and it's kind of going to be a culmination of everything that's going on in the news because have been so many updates on cases that we have covered and cases that are happening as we speak. So, without further ado, let's get started. I'm Brittany Sheffrin,
I'm Jenna Kaplan.
and this is Murder in Retrograde.
All right. So the first one that we are going to talk about is very newly in the news again. It's not something that's happening. So the crimes happened a few years ago, but we're seeing it kind of recycled in the news, and I'm going to tell you why. So the case of Dr. Grant Robicheaux and Cerissa Riley from Newport Beach. So really quick. So we live like a couple of miles in both ways of Newport Beach. And so we're very familiar with the area. Spent a lot of time there in my 20s, but it's like a very affluent community. I was on like realtor kind of websites the other day. I was like, I want to know what these houses go for, right? Because they're freaking mansions. So
Yeah.
the lowest one I saw was like 2 million, and then the most was like 32 million. The
It's
$32 million house is freaking insane, but it's basically all on this like island, right?
Is
So
it on Lido Island?
yeah, it's like Balboa. It's like so for people that aren't familiar, it's like you're on PCH, and you kind of go down on its own little island, and it's these huge houses, restaurants, bars, very beachy,
It's
very
called Corona del Mar. It's the Balboa Peninsula. It's a very ritzy place. I would compare it, if anything, to like a Hamptons type of a feel. But the homes on this island are like nothing you've ever seen. I mean, the richest of the rich. There were Trump rallies on the daily in this area, but it's also right next to Costa Mesa, which is a much more mellow, I think, more liberal area. And so you get kind of like the younger people like us who would party in Newport, and then the ritzy, super rich people. It's just a mishmash of
yeah.
beautiful plastic surgery land, and yachts.
And then all of a sudden, and then the young kids that are like discovering bars for like the first time. It's like such a weird mix, but there's kind of like a circle of bars where this kind of took place, where you would kind of hop around, like, right, you get dropped off at one, and then you kind of like walk around and visit, and whether you're doing dinner, bar hopping, whatever. And I didn't know this, but apparently there's a pretty big swingers community in Newport Beach. I had no
Oh, I
idea.
knew about that.
I had no idea. No idea.
It's like all over Orange County. I knew about it like on in the beach cities, but then I heard about it like in Ladera Ranch and Mission Viejo. Like I at this point, I think it's all of America, but
Yeah.
it's like a well-known thing that there are swingers in
So yeah,
Newport.
I had no idea, but it makes sense. So Grant Robicheaux, he is like the quintessential looking California surfer dude. He is good looking. He's a surgeon that specializes in orthopedics. He did a very short stint on Bravo and a show called Online Dating Rituals of the American Male. I'd never even heard of this, and I'm a
Oh,
huge
it was
Bravo fan.
horrifying. I watched it. It was horrifying. And he was like so arrogant. And
Yeah.
I remember I was watching it with my mom, and he was her type completely. Like he's very model-esque. Like he is kind of beachy, but not as surferish. Like he's got a chiseled face, and
Yeah.
then you hear surgeon and orthopedic surgeons, if anybody doesn't know, they have this god complex where they think they are, I mean, all surgeons have a god complex, but orthopedics especially.
Yeah. So he originally was from Louisiana. He went to school there. That's where he got his degree, and then he came to UC Irvine Medical to complete his residency. So that's kind of what brought him here. And he was living in a $2 million duplex in Newport Bay. He drove a G-Wagon. I mean, he's just like the typical, I hate to say that, but like kind of the typical of what you kind of expect from this area.
Do we know if
And
he came from money?
I actually have no idea.
I don't think that he came from that much money. So that's interesting because G Wagon's like 250 grand. If he's in a $2 million home, like you're right out of med school, you still have bills to pay. He's probably I mean, he's trying to show an image that's it just says something about him.
Yeah. And then I laughed at this, but he was also voted the most eligible bachelor in Orange Coast magazine in 2013. So, you know.
Otherwise known as head for the hills if you see these men in a bar.
Exactly. So Grant meets this beautiful young girl, Carissa Riley. A few years ago, they were both vacationing in Vegas, somehow kind of come across each other and instantly hit it off. Cerissa is this like beautiful, lean dancer. Like you can totally tell she's a dancer, just like looking at her body and like her statue and stuff. And
She's a
she's very
stunning,
pretty.
tall brunette
Oh, just
girl.
so
Does she have
pretty.
big boobs, like a perfect body, right?
Yeah. And so she studied at Chapman University. She had a passion for teaching dance and wanted to become a dance instructor. And this is where I think it's very interesting about her is that she was a devoted Christian, like went on missionary travel trips to spread the word of God. She was in a performing group that would, it's kind of interesting. I've never heard this terminology, but they were like called hooked or hooks or something. So they would go perform on street corners and then someone would be like, "What is this about?" And they would use that to hook you in to tell you about the word of God. Okay. So she
Oh,
was
and she
like,
just so happens to be super good looking. So they shove the good looking Christian girls out there.
but
Oh.
the a part of this that's important is like she seemed to be the quintessential like good Christian girl, right? Like doing all of these good things for her community, the homeless, her church, whatever.
Well, even Chapman is a religious school. It's a very
Right.
Christian school. And it's
So
expensive. It's like a privileged private school.
yeah, I used to spend a lot of time down there too. Anyway, so she ended up marrying her high school sweetheart, Chad, and they looked like the perfect couple. They had like their wedding invitation was like a 10-minute video of them and all these different scenarios. And um, like I would not that Instagram was as popular when this was going on, but I would like equate it to like the perfect Instagram model, like looking couple, right? Like looked like they
Yeah.
had everything. And they get married and um all of a sudden, a couple years in, Chad comes clean and admits to her that he's actually gay. And for her religious beliefs and everything, this was very hard. She like he has come out and said, she really fought the divorce because, not only was whatever. So that's kind of her background of what she was going through before she met Grant.
Okay, ADD sidebar.
Yes.
I don't watch The Bachelor. Do you watch The Bachelor?
No, I used to when
Okay,
it was first, but not anymore.
I just saw that Colton Underwood, do you know this name? He was on The Bachelor. He, like, there was something where he broke up with a girl. I don't know, but he just came out. He's gay. And I've never watched the show. And so often when I've seen The Bachelor, I've been
Was
like,
he the one that said he was a virgin, maybe? I don't now I
probably.
have to go look.
But it gives me such hope because of situations like this where there's so much pressure to be Christian. And
Mhm.
so they marry a woman or a woman marries a man, they
Yeah.
have kids, and then all of this damage when they could have just lived a wonderful, healthy, happy life if they could have been themselves.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's sad and it's
For
unfortunate
everybody
that people
involved,
feel
for
yeah, for everyone. She obviously is getting hurt in the process. He didn't probably feel he could be honest because he also, from what I could find out, was also he was also in this group of
of course.
hooking and it sounds so terrible. It sounds like you're like hooking,
Well,
like
yeah, that at least
but
they're calling it what it is.
so anyway, I think they stayed on good terms, whatever. But this is just more so you can see her kind of the background of what she was going through
That's
because
a big deal.
yeah. So so her and Grant meet and everything seems to be going great. And then all of a sudden in 2016, things take a very interesting turn. So in April of 2016, a Jane Doe comes out and she reported to Newport Beach police that Riley and Robicheaux had met her at a bar, invited her to a party, took her back to their apartment, and forced her to participate in sexual acts when she was intoxicated beyond ability to consent. And then, so nothing really happened from what I can tell. And then 6 months later, police get another complaint from another woman who says she woke up in their apartment. And this is kind of when things I think started becoming more public because she woke up screaming and neighbors called 911 and they're like, I hear a woman screaming.
Oh
And
my God.
police come and check it out. And after they speak to everyone, they file the complaint as cleared and non-crime. They then tell the neighbors that are waiting outside to see what's going on that the screams were related to a quote private sexual matter. So the police are not taking this
And can I tell you
seriously.
why? It's because it's Newport
I was gonna
Beach, and that
say,
crime goes on a list, and then every property investment, every property is determined on, what I'm sorry, your property value will go down if the crime rates go up. So it happens in the city I live too. They say, oh no, that didn't happen here. That happened 3 streets down in Santa Ana. So they don't have to have that crime rate. That's so terrible that
oh,
they just
it gets
wiped it off the
worse. It gets
books.
worse. And there's a lot more to the story, and I'll tell you why. We're not getting too much into it, but this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. So nothing really happens. 3 years later, there's about 7 women now that are accusing the couple of similar things, drugging them, and raping them or assaulting them. And uh it's interesting too because the accounts that have come out, it sounds like from the victim's point of view that Riley or Cerissa Riley was kind of gaining the trust because she's a female and making
She was
people
hooking.
feel
She was doing what she's been
comfortable.
doing since she was a child. She
Yeah.
was like taught how to do that. She was grooming.
Yeah. So she would like make women feel comfortable and like let them, put their guard down and then bring them to him and kind of allegedly this is what's being said, right? So Robicheaux and Riley at this point have been charged with rape by drugs, oral compulsion by anesthesia, sorry, kidnapping with intent to commit sexual offenses, and assault with intent to commit sexual offenses, among other crimes. This is where it gets interesting, even more interesting. So the then Orange County DA, Tony Rackauckus, says that investigators uncovered thousands of electronic files from cell phones from the couple and iCloud accounts, including dozens of videos showing the couple in a sexual encounter with women in various states of unconsciousness. And then once the news started coming out about this, another 18 women had come forward. But because of what is it called? Statute of limitations, only I think 7 of them were actually named as the victims, but more and more people seem to have come out when this, and I promise you there's a lot more that won't come out that
Oh,
probably
I
were
there's I
affected.
would say there's probably 4 times as many that it actually happened to that blame themselves, are confused, have no memory of anything. So thank God some of them came forward because there's way more that didn't.
So with these crimes that they're being charged with, so first of all, they're both out on bail and they're sticking together. There are rumors that they've gotten married so that they wouldn't have to testify against each other, but there's no actual proof of that as far as anyone can find. So I don't know if it's just a rumor or not. Um,
That's weird because you would think you'd be able to look up marriage certificate, but maybe not if they did it.
I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
So with everything they're being charged with, they're facing between like 30 and 50 years in prison, right? Like this is serious, serious stuff. So where this gets even more twisted, and bear with me here, is the DA at the time is Tony Rackauckus. He held this position for like 20 years or something crazy. And then his like nemesis, who's Todd Spitzer, comes and takes over. Spitzer, before he took over, had been bad mouthing Rackauckus and his handling of the case before he took over. And he began raising objections to the handling of the case. And I think that was his, from what I could tell, his like way of trying to get elected, right? Like he's
Oh, it was
blowing this
that
case
was his
and
campaign stance. The reason I voted for him was because he said he was personally going to make sure that this case was. That's why I
Oh,
voted for him, and that's
oh,
why I told everyone in
oh,
my family to vote
oh.
for him.
It
I
gets
know,
bad.
I
It
know what
gets real bad.
happens.
So for caucus heads, when they told them that they had found all these, cell phone data and all that, then Spitzer had gone on record saying like that's not true. That's not the evidence isn't what he says it is, basically.
He said that after he got elected, or
Um,
like while they're still
I
fighting
think
while
while they were
the
still fighting,
okay.
but then on the day of the couple's arraignment, a few weeks ahead of the election, the two men held dueling press conference about the case in front of the Harbor Justice Center in Newport Beach.
Oh my God.
And there's it's so wild. So there's so much going on here with the DAs and the investigators and kind of in a gist. So Spitzer was trying to offload this case from the jump. He gets into office and he's like trying to like make it disappear. So he attempted to get the case dismissed by saying there wasn't enough. So we had like a sorry, back up. So we had investigators like have a 3-month period of like looking over it. And then he said that he wanted to get the case dismissed because there wasn't enough evidence and that this couple was being targeted for their swinger lifestyle.
Which was
He
shocking. When that came out, I was like, "What?"
Once he wasn't able to make it go away that way, he tried to then pass it off to the attorney general, who said, "Nah, nah, ain't happening." And it ended up recently in front of a judge that has said this case will not be dismissed. And also, Spitzer has been not only did he have all those issues with Rackauckus, right? So then I think when he started realizing he can't just like make this case go away, he started attacking the lead investigator. And I don't have her name, but from what it sounds like, she has her shit together. She knows what she's doing. She's um her specialty is in like sex crimes, and he starts attacking her and doesn't think that she has leading interviews and all this stuff. So he is kind of going after the case in as many different ways as he can to like undermine it.
Yeah.
And he then eventually, she somehow gets removed from the case and they put lesser trained investigators on the case in her place.
What?
I don't know what his deal is. I don't know if there's a relationship there somewhere that we don't know about, or campaign funds that were dealt with for some that I don't know, but he's doing everything he possibly can to make this case go away. And literally, as of like 2 weeks ago, I think they came out saying that the Orange County District Attorneys is now reviewing the court's decision about, because the judge said no, we're not dismissing it, and so now they're reviewing it again, and then the next hearing is scheduled for June 12th. So there's still a chance this could get dismissed for whatever reason. It doesn't sound like it, but then he's like, well, if it's not getting dismissed, then he's going to try and not do a good enough job of investigating it. Like I don't know. And it's really hard. I can't imagine what the victims are going through with all of this. So I know it was kind of long, but that's like the synopsis as much as I can give it to you. There's so many layers and details of this case, and I urge everyone to go subscribe to Justine Harmon's podcast. It's called the OC Swingers. It's like 4 episodes and it's really good. And I think she is going to get into the nitty gritty of all of these kind of details. Like you hear a lot more, you hear eyewitness account, or not eyewitness, but victim accounts of what they had gone through with this couple allegedly, and just the whole process a little bit more in depth. And it's just crazy. Like this has been going on for years. And the fact that people, and again, we're seeing this over and over, but people in power are not doing their flipping jobs. It's beyond.
It's so frustrating. The more you see of these people covering up and protecting each other, and
It all comes back to
I
like
mean,
money and greed and politics. And it's like, oh, for crying out loud.
so now what I want to research is Todd Spitzer's relationship with Grant Robicheaux.
Me
There's
too.
got to be some
Something.
sort of relationship. Maybe he's in one of those videos.
And
Maybe he
and the girl who's doing the podcast, she's like a big time, I think she writes for like LA Magazine or something. I bet you if anyone's going to pull out some of this information, she'll do it in this podcast. It'll be interesting to see how many more episodes she's going to do and what she gets to. But same, I'm going to be going down a rabbit hole later because there's got to be some sort of connection
right.
between the
And
two.
that podcast is under Audio Check, right? It's
Yeah.
Crime Junkie.
Yeah.
Okay, so definitely check out OC Swingers. And then moving right along to Delphi, of course, that this is the case that I am just obsessed with. I want to solve this case. I want to live to see this case solved. This week, People Magazine Investigates aired a brand new episode about Delphi. And also, it was really interesting. You know, I've always been kind of stuck on The Shack, which was the movie that was referred to in the press conference. Some people think it means nothing. I don't think there's ever something said in a press conference that is not meant to mean something,
I
signal
agree.
something,
Yeah.
whatever. So anyway, I'm flipping through the channels and somehow I'm on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday and it was William Paul Young, the writer of The Shack. But it was like, you know, when you're like, there's no reason I would ever be on this
Yeah, no,
channel.
that was like
There's a
serendipitous.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to watch this because then I was like, oh, maybe it was just a really big book if she even is speaking with
Yeah.
him.
Right.
But it's a very interesting story. Anyway, whatever. I went down the Shack black hole and I keep thinking like, does this mean something? Does it not? Because there's so much religious innuendo in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of that anyway in this case. And the People magazine episode was really interesting because it showed a few things that I didn't know about. For example, did you know that 3,000 motorcyclists came and rode for them? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, they do it annually. So it's a like a memorable ride type thing.
Right.
We covered it.
You
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mentioned it on our episode. That's
Yeah.
right, in the how to help. I thought that was, I guess
It's
seeing it
amazing.
was
Yeah.
really breathtaking to see that many
Yeah.
people there for them. And
Yeah.
I wondered like how they're connected. Maybe one of the girls' grandfathers rides motorcycles, or who
I don't
knows, maybe they
remember.
just
I think
wanted to
it's
do
just
it.
yeah, I don't remember the connection, but it's very sweet.
Yeah, and also an anonymous donor just added $100,000 to their reward, which now brings the total to $325,000. And another thing I really love is the Indiana Colts and the Packers put in money,
Oh,
and
wow.
a lot of like the coach for one of those teams, I don't remember, one of the NFL teams put in like 90K. It's just this whole all of Indiana is just desperate to solve this case like me. And I was really happy that they mentioned geocaching in the episode because it's not always mentioned and I don't think a lot of people know what it is cuz Jenna, you and I didn't know, like you didn't know, right?
No.
If for anybody that doesn't know, geocaching is an outdoor recreational activity in which participants use a global positioning system, GPS, receiver, or mobile device like your phone to hide and seek containers called geocaches or caches at specific locations marked by coordinates all over the world. And that's the definition according to Wikipedia.
I think this also saw a little bit of a spike during the pandemic too, because it was like outdoors and people were desperate to find something. And this is what kind of led down the TikTok like bodies randomly being found because of geocaching.
Yes. Yes, you're
So
right.
crazy.
That seems like it was like 10 years
I
ago. It was
know. Just last year.
2020. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's kind of like the Pokemon game, like when
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
driving around trying to find Pokemon. But there was some talk about this because both Abby and Libby did a lot of geocaching. And like we said on the episode, there was a geocache location underneath the bridge. So I don't know why, but People Magazine thought it was important to put that into the episode, and I was happy about that.
Yeah.
And then just a few other things. The snow day, that still bothers me. It was a built-in day. It wasn't snowing, but they had to use that day, and it was Monday was off and Friday was off, and this happened on Tuesday. I feel like there's something to that. Like there's something like they're in the school district or they knew that. There's got to be something to that. But anyway, as per usual, I am obsessed with this case. We'll bring all of the updates I can, and I'm not going to give up because, like we've seen this week in the Kristen Smart case, it's like hope that even if you're missing I hope this doesn't happen, or something happened to you 25 years ago. There are breakthroughs in technology and awesome podcasters out there, ahem, like Chris Lambert with Your Own Backyard, who played a huge role in recent events in that case, um, with Paul Flores, which Jenna, you can tell us about, right?
I'm gonna jump into it really quick about the Delphi episode. So the thing that I was happy to see also was that they briefly talked about Evansdale, because it happened so close, and they were quick to say, "Well, everybody said it's not, connected, whatever." And I know that I don't work for the police and I'm not privy to the information, but I still think that there's something there. But I'm glad to see that it was at least mentioned, because it's like a double-edged sword. Every time I think of Delphi, personally, Evansdale is what, like, is more attached to me for a few reasons, and I feel
Yeah.
like it's sad to me that they're not getting the the more public, like, shows or, anything like
Hmm.
that. And I actually wrote to People Magazine and said, like, "Please, can you, like, research and, like, give this case a platform, because it's whether it's connected or not, like, it's another family or families, two young girls brutally murdered, and still, what, I think it's like 10 years later, we know nothing. And
Yeah, I think that the reason that Delphi gets so much attention is because of the images and
no, I
because of the
know,
audio.
I
And
know.
it's just like we have everything. We can see and hear the killer. We just can't find them. But I agree with you. And whether or not it's connected, I love that they put it out there, because
Mhm.
as much publicity as that can get, it will only help to
Yeah,
have more people know about it. So I agree with you 100%.
so sad. But in better news, Kristen Smart. Okay, I literally almost teared up yesterday when this happened.
I was so excited.
So first and foremost, like, if you haven't listened to it yet, one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to ever is Your Own Backyard by Chris Lambert. He did a fantastic job. So Kristen Smart went missing in 1996, and Paul Flores, who was the last person to see her, has been a person of interest the entire time.
Hmm.
And this case is he finally got arrested for murder yesterday. And then his dad got arrested for suspicion of accessory. So Paul has not being given bail. Ruben is being given like a $250,000 bail. So they're going to be arraigned this Thursday, or latest Thursday. But when I saw that come through, I was like, oh my God, things are happening. Because before this, we've been seeing on news, TikToks, and all these things that they've been in different locations connected to this family, looking for evidence, looking for remains. Um, and
I don't know
yes,
if you remember this, but you sent to me in January of 2020 that Kristen Smart's mother came forward and said that she was contacted by the FBI and said, wait for something big is coming.
yeah, so exactly that is what she was told, and then nothing happened. So we were like, well, was that a hoax, or was that
Hmm.
like something didn't come to fruition? But
But you
yeah,
kept saying, because I was saying that, and you kept saying, well, it's COVID. It's COVID.
I
It
know.
might be taking a really long time. And I was like, no, it's nothing. But you held out
I
hope.
I got sucked in because I'd never heard of this case before I listened to the podcast, and then I was like immediately sucked in.
Yeah.
So yesterday the sheriff gave a press conference covering what they have done in the case, kind of talking about how when I think it was when he first became sheriff, he said that he, kind of refiled, I don't know the word terminology, but he resent out things for, modern technology. They had some cold case investigators working on it. They have searched given over 40 search warrants. And he was kind of listing all the things, and I kept waiting, and I was like, are they going to do
For the
it or not?
podcast.
And I have to say, I give him credit, because not every police department would do this. People are always fighting for who gets the case or who gets the credit.
Yeah.
And he absolutely gave credit where credit was due. He talked about Chris, and he talked about the podcast and how it brought
Wow.
national attention to the case. And that, because of that national attention, brought in new eyewitnesses, that kind of helps get them to the point that they are.
That is
Um,
so important, and I loved that podcast because the police were so considerate. They were not,
mhm,
like, way open with him and definitely
right.
made him uncomfortable at times, but they wanted to solve the
Yeah.
case, and you and I so many times have heard these cases or seen police, like, say, "No, we don't want any extra help," and I get it. Hearing a podcaster, you're like, "Oh, geez, what's this person really doing?" But that cop was amazing and
Yeah.
gave Chris the benefit of the doubt, and look at what happened because of it. I
Yeah,
hope more
it's
police officers are open to this type of help.
I was literally driving home from, like, soccer yesterday, and I was, like, listening to it, and I'm like, "Is he gonna say it? Is he gonna say anything? Is he gonna say anything?" And then finally he started talking about I was like, "Oh, thank goodness," because he
Yeah.
did a great job. He really did the research, and it was great. So, he also did say, they're not gonna talk about what evidence led them to this because the search warrants are sealed. But they said they are still collecting evidence and still searching for Kristen's remains. And they did say, like, we haven't found her yet, but we are not going to give up. We are going to keep looking for her. They're using ground penetrating technology and cadaver dogs to kind of help assist with this. And then really quick, I
It's
just wanted
it's
to read.
interesting though. Sorry, it's
No, go for
interesting
it.
because he was charged with murder.
Oh
So
yeah.
that means that they feel like they have enough evidence now
Yep.
without even finding her
Yep.
body to charge him and the father with accessory. So they
Yeah.
have to
They
have
have
blood
something,
or
they have
there's something.
something because that, a reporter had asked about, like, well, not having a body, and he's like, "It happens, unfortunately, it happens where
Yeah.
you have to try," and he kind of led to the fact that they have enough without it.
It's like Jennifer Dulos, you
Yeah, and
know?
he kinda quoted, like, a 48 hours that recently, like, I don't know the case he was talking about, but he had said, 48 hours just covered a case where they tried and convicted and even, held over appeals, and then after that, they found the person's body. So it's like, you don't
Wow.
necessarily need that, but I think that these police officers actually seem like they want to get that kind of final piece of the puzzle. Um and then the family's spokesperson for Kristen Smart came out and gave a statement. I'm just going to read really quick, but it says, "For over 24 years, we have waited for this bittersweet day. It is impossible to put into words what this day means for our family. We pray it is the first step to bringing our daughter home. While Kristen's loving spirit will always live in our hearts, our life without her hugs, laughs, and smiles is a heartache that never abates. The knowledge, and this is the part that gutted me, the knowledge that a father and son, despite our desperate pleas for help, could have withheld this horrible secret for nearly 25 years, denying us the chance to lay our daughter to rest, is an unrelenting and unforgiving pain."
Yeah, I can't imagine that feeling.
Yeah. And the anger that comes with it, it's like, you're like, I knew it. The whole time you knew, I think they always had suspicions. And finally, things were happening. And they've done so much to try and make this family feel guilty. And they don't give a rat's ass. They just protecting themselves. And you know what? I'm glad they held on to that card. I'm glad they held on to all that stuff because they're idiots and they're going down.
Yeah,
And that's what I have to say about that.
seriously. It's oh crazy and things are happening fast. So we'll keep you updated. And then just a short, it's not really an update, but we covered the case of Erica Lloyd, the 38-year-old mother of one from Walnut Creek who went to Joshua Tree. And I well, she was found in 29 Palms, and I went there over the weekend and I could not stop thinking about her. And as I drove, there were those things on the side of the road where they say that she could have possibly crashed her car. She 100% could have happened. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many instances where that could have happened. And then her car being found in another place. Remember, it had a stroller in it. I just feel like
Oh,
her
yeah.
car
That
was
part was weird.
I feel like her car was looted because the amount of homelessness that I saw was horrific. I mean, it was 104 degrees, and I saw a man looking desperately for shade. I mean, uh, it's, and then just going on my hike, my husband and I almost got lost trying to get back to our car. And, they said she wandered around there. So I just feel like that was a bunch of terrible circumstances. And unfortunately, she just got lost. I mean, that's what I want to believe, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure her family too, that nothing was done to her. But regardless, it's heartbreaking, and it's so you can't help but think about it when you're there because of the
Mm,
vastness, and just the elements are so
extreme.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's inhospitable for human beings. So it's no wonder. It's when you're there, it's just really you apparent like how
Yeah.
quickly you could go down if you didn't have a phone and water and food and all of that.
It's scary, right? Because I love like being camping or outdoors. And then you have moments like that where you're like reality checked a bit and you're like, oh, I need to be prepared for these things.
Yeah, it sounds romantic. Like, let's go. Like that's what it sounded like to us. And then driving back, my husband and I were like, what did people do without phones? And what would we have done if, like there's no service or anything out there. So it's weird. It's like the Wild West.
Just kind of not like kind of the same thing, not tons of updates, but there was again, because it's changing by the day really quick. There was like a few things that came out with the Malaya, the Millete case. So I can't remember if last week we talked about the neighbors footage that came out. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So the neighbors who are remaining anonymous because they don't want to be dealt with, but they released their like ring device, but there's no imagery on there, but there's what sounds like six gunshots Thursday night. And then there's on and again some of this stuff is like being said in groups, and then some of this is being said by people that are like a little bit separated from the case. So I'm just kind of repeating here what I've heard. uh but then there was another, I guess, neighbor ring cam that supposedly has footage of a similar looking car to a family member of Larry's driving by at like 2:30 in the morning or something. Uh,
Wow.
and then the most recent is that police got a search warrant for Larry's, I believe it's his aunt and uncle's home. And this is the home where the Billy Little had found the freezer that was like missing from Larry's
Right.
house. Um, there's rumors that the freezer got taken from the house. Again, I don't know for certain that's what's happened, but that's kind of what's being on the rumor mill of these things. And then the thing that came out also that is concerning is that apparently Larry has family members in the DOJ.
Oh my gosh.
So that's
Well, that
concerning.
explains a lot.
Yeah. So that's it as of now. But again, some interesting things coming out. I think the family is just beyond frustrated. Oh, that was the other thing. I think the brother-in-law came out and said, they have zero faith in Chula Vista Police. They're like done, which I don't
Ugh.
blame them. They've been doing way more work, but I guess the FBI is involved now, so hopefully we'll see some progress happening. I want them to find her. And if you're local, they're doing some searches this weekend in the desert, and they need drones and they need, cadaver dogs. They want all of the tools. So if you can um, help out with that, that'd be great. And all of her kind of information we put on our website under her section. There's like 3 pages. I think it'll be either you'll find it there, her stuff. So I'll make sure all the groups and GoFundMe's and all that are posted so you guys can donate your time or your money if you can. That's the latest that's going on with Maya. And then like always, we're going to keep you guys updated with all of this stuff. And then something new we wanted to start doing for you guys, because between Brittany and I, we're constantly being asked for recommendations on things to listen to or to watch. And because that's what we do is we watch true crime and then we talk about it and then we come in podcasts. So,
Yep.
we want to give you our recommendations, if I can speak. So obviously OC Swingers, the podcast that I talked about earlier, Your Own Backyard, like we talked about earlier, if you haven't already. And then another new one that's come out that again is close to home for us, is The Lost Hills. It's being very well done, very respectful. Brittany, you more so than me, have some kind of real life knowledge of this. Do you want to briefly?
Yeah, so it's the case in Malibu where in Malibu Canyon there was a lot of things that had happened, and then eventually there was a murder of a man who was with his children in a tent. And I knew him, and he was a really amazing person. I didn't know him well, but I knew him, like saw him every day, and it's hard for me to listen to because of that, because he was um, just, I remember the most how sweet and gentle he was with his kids, and how much his kids just like lit up when they saw him. And uh, so I guess I just wanted to say that I knew Tristan and he was amazing. I think that this podcast is really well done, and I'm really happy that his brother-in-law and his wife are able to speak, and because they spoke on this podcast, I felt like it was a good one to recommend, because clearly they're involved, and they want to get that story out, and certainly get the story out because it could have been prevented. And that's the most heartbreaking thing of all, is that it shouldn't have happened. If Tristan would have known that things were happening in this area, he never would have taken his children there.
Yeah.
um so yeah, that's definitely a good one to listen to.
It like yeah, like you said, the family's involved, so I would support it for sure. And the girl, I'm totally didn't write down her name, but she's fantastic. She's doing a really good job of, speaking to kind of all sides of it, the Tristan's family side, the police side, the investigation side, the community side. So it's really well done. So that would be the other podcast that we would recommend. And then two things that I watched recently that I would say go watch is on HBO. And I know you've already seen it because you told me to watch it. And I finally just got to it. Was Crazy, Not Insane, obsessed,
Yes.
loved it. Very informative. And it, for me at least, it got my brain moving in a way because I don't think that I'm really set in stone on things when it comes to, death penalty cases or um if you're insane or I'm open-minded to information on all sides, and so
Right.
stuff like this got me thinking also if it's this case then anyways it's really really good to watch. And then the other thing that I watched recently that I loved was the Netflix show called Under Suspicion: Uncovering the Westfall Case. So it is in subtitles, I will warn you, because that took me a few times to get going. But if you can deal with it, it is actually fascinating. I was sucked in. I binged, I think it was like 4 or 5 episodes. It's really good. So
Ooh, I'm
those are
excited.
mine. What do you
It's
got?
it's hard when you're, because both of us are doing laundry the majority of the time that we're watching or cleaning or whatever. And so yeah, you really have to sit down and look at the television, which
Yep.
is hard for us every once in a while.
Oh, but
But
it's so good.
um yeah, of course I've been watching, and I've been obsessed because I love contemporary art. I love art. So it's about the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist that happened in 1990, and it's fascinating. If you know about it, if you don't know about it, watch it. You will be just thoroughly entertained by the twists and turns of that case, and it's still unsolved. And then what else have I watched or listened to? I think that's all that I have for
Well, and then
now.
the
But
People Investigates the Delphi. I mean,
Delphi episode.
in general, they've done a pretty good job of covering cases. What was the other one that you and I loved that is the New York Times that does
Yes,
one?
New York
Yeah.
Times presents.
Yeah. So New York Times Presents. If you watch any of those are really, really, really well done. So yeah,
They did the
that's
Britney Spears documentary. Everybody
and
knows that
Breonna
one.
Taylor. I mean, they did some good
Hmm.
ones. So
Yeah.
that's what we got for you guys. And then thanks for listening as always. We will see you next week. And if you haven't already, please make sure to either subscribe here or on your podcast platforms.
Both. Do both.
Do
You need
both.
to do both. And
Do
then comment. Tell us, what did you like? What do you want to hear more of? Don't tell us anything negative. Just kidding.
Yeah, we're open to recommendations, whether it's, for episodes or for new cases. So let us know what you think. And you can always go to our website, murderinretrograde.com, for source information or just more things on pictures or links to, articles that we've read or whatever. So yeah, and you can contact us there. So we'll see you next time, and
Be safe and trust your gut.
see you next time. Bye.
Bye.